Shin Megami Tensei V will be released for Switch sometime later this year, and said upcoming release is the first time that I have been hyped for the release of a video game since Danganronpa V3. To celebrate, I want to make more videos on the SMT series. Persona 5 Royal brought back some obscure demons that had barely made any appearances in the franchise. For example, Azathoth and Adam Cadman, two demons who had each previously only appeared once in some of the more obscure games, reappear in the new third semester. And Freya, the second persona of the new party member Yoshizawa, makes her first reappearance since the Devil Children series. Another demon who appears is Maria, who fans might remember as the final boss in the Womb of Grief in Strange Journey Redux, now as the ultimate persona of the new Faith Arcana. But despite this now being the second time that she's been a massive force of power in the games, and the frequent appearances of a separate interpretation of her, Black Maria, on the 3DS, this only marks her third appearance in the franchise to date. The reason I chose this topic to do a list on specifically is that unfortunately there are tons of other demons that have been lost to time. Barely remembered beyond a mention on the wiki, many are presented as sprite art only, and others without even that, leaving their pages barren. I suppose that this is only to be expected, as after more than 30 years of games in the series that has helped pioneer the creature collecting genre, a genre that has become so widely accepted enough to finally obtain a usable tag on Steam, and each game having its own individual compendium, it's only natural that a few demons would get lost in the aether, disappearing from use after the end of a specific spin-off or console generation. But with the recently mentioned returns of obscure demons in Persona 5 Royal, it's given many, myself included, hope that 5 will also include the return of various obscure demons back into the series. The only criteria for a demon to appear on this list is that they cannot have had any appearances in any games, mainline or spin-off, in the last 10 years. Hence being obscure to fans of modern Atlus games. And to clarify, I'm not counting Japanese-only re-releases of games, but I am counting games released into English in the past decade, such as Soul Hackers on the 3DS. However, as an oversight, I forgot about the PSP re-release of Persona 2 Innocent Sin, which was released in English in September of 2011. Technically less than 10 years ago, but I had neglected to notice this until after I had finished the list. That was a mistake on my end, but since I already have the list completed, only 2 demons on this list appear in that game, and the game itself is an obscure one that not many have played to my knowledge, and it's less than 6 months away from my projected cutoff point, I don't think it detracts from the 2 in question being obscure. With all that in mind, here are 6 obscure demons to return in Shin Megami Tensei V. Why 6? Because a list of 6 has a nice ring to it, and 5 isn't always enough. Number 6. Brahma. In many religions and mythologies around the world, there is a trinity of sorts between 3 main deities, such as Zeus, Poseidon, and Hades of Greco-Roman mythology, and Odin, Vili, and Vai in Norse mythology. There is also such a trinity in Hinduism, one of the most represented cultures in Shin Megami Tensei, those being Shiva the Destroyer, Vishnu the Preserver, and Brahma the Creator. Yet, while both Vishnu and Shiva are amongst the most recurring demons in the whole franchise, Brahma hasn't appeared since the Devil Children series. Matter of fact, Brahma hasn't actually appeared in any mainline games at all, the closest being Kyoku Megami Tensei, a SNES re-release of the original Megami Tensei and Megami Tensei 2 bundled together. Heck, even here it was just a replacement for Brahman, a demon based off of a concept in Hinduism closely associated with Brahma, who's had even less appearances. According to the wiki, Brahma has to date only appeared in 8 games, 4 of which were 2 separate pairs of the Devil Children series, and another 2 being the Persona 2 duology, which shares a lot of demons between them. Aside from the Persona dancing games that don't use demons/shadows/personas, I'm pretty sure that the only games in the past 20 years that Shiva has been absent from is Digital Devil Saga 1 and Persona 5 Strikers. And Vishnu has appeared in at least one game of every spin-off series except for the Devil Survivor series, and has appeared in every mainline and Persona title, typically as a powerhouse demon or persona with access to high damage dealing magic and physical skills. In fact, Shiva and Vishnu were two of the best demons in my first playthrough of Nocturne. I used Vishnu to unlock most of the doors in the 5th Kalpa of the Labyrinth of Amala, and both were such powerhouses that I used them together to help me take down both Kagutsuchi and Lucifer. Even without having pierced, they were just that powerful. To have the third member of this trinity just be non-existent in the majority of the games, when the other two appear constantly, just seems so bizarre to me. And SMT 5 would be the perfect place to change that.
Number 5. Norse mythology is one of my all-time favorite mythologies, and while not as represented as Hindu or Abrahamic mythology, it's still pretty common. That said, for some reason, a lot of demons based off of Norse figures or concepts will only make a single appearance and are then forgotten about. Kvasir is one such case. The wisest being who could answer any question and took to a life of dispensing wisdom to all that he met in his travels, Kvasir was also a unique being in that he was born by the saliva of both the Aesir and Vanir, mixing after ending their war, though, as with many figures of centuries-old myth and folklore, an alternative source states otherwise. That Kvasir was a Vanir who, long before the war, went to live with the Aesir as an exchange of hostages. Whichever origin is the myth's canon or not, Kvasir is an important deity, a god of wisdom and poetry, and according to myth, humanity learned poetry by drinking mead made from his blood after he was killed by two dwarves, one of which actually makes an appearance in Persona 2. Odin, relentless in his pursuit of knowledge above all else, would work for many months to try and obtain the mead after it was hoarded by the giant Satung, and after stealing it, returned to Asgard where he shared it with the other gods, and to great and true poets and scholars Odin himself dispenses personally and with care. If I had to personally make up an excuse for him to be put into the game, then I could easily see defeating or negotiating with him for his blood to be a part of a challenge quest to give Dionysus a bizarre wine to taste, like how he asked for a Zen's feather in Strange Journey. Number 4. Bogle. In Scottish mythology, a bogle is a benign spiritual creature that exists for the purpose of perplexing mankind, and is the origin of the English phrase, "it boggles the mind." There's not much more to say about its mythological origin since that's where it largely ends. Though the mythological entry in Shin Megami Tensei 1 states that a brownie will turn into a bogle if mistreated. But from my understanding and research, I couldn't find anything to substantiate this, so it's likely some sort of translation error. Brownies are a domestic spirit that may help the household if given an offering, usually of milk or cream, and may play pranks if neglected for their own amusement or on servants who neglect their duties. Boggles will pull pranks on occasion or something that resembles them to an outside viewer, but their nature is not something that most people can grasp, and thus so are their reasons for their mischief. Compared to most demons on this list, Bogle has actually had a decent number of appearances, having 11 games in the Wiki's appearances section, first appearing in the very first Megami Tensei title of 1987. However, most of its appearances have been in the more obscure spin-offs such as Majin Tensei and Last Bible, with the only mainline title that Bogle has appeared in being the first Shin Megami Tensei, and its most recent appearance being the 1997 Giten Megami Tensei. So yeah, unlike most demons on this list, Bogle started as a common recurring demon that just kinda fell out of use when the 90s ended. A shame too, as they have such a cool design.
Number 3. Munin and Hugin. In Norse mythology, Munin and Hugin are two ravens that accompany Odin, and are associated with the concepts of memory and thought, respectively. Both are sent out at dawn and return in the evening, or by breakfast in some sources, to report back to the god, eternally lusting after knowledge and relentless in obtaining it. I know I am cheating a bit by putting both in the same spot on the list, but they largely serve the same role in mythology, and I could easily see them be interchangeable gameplay wise as well. Maybe an encounter at the same time, needing to recruit both at the same time, or have already fused the other to recruit the other, be used together to make a special fusion, or even the developers can give them each a weakness, and that they repel or absorb what the other is weak to. Call me biased for my love of Blackbird symbolism and Norse mythology, or just that I find their devil children designs to be amongst the most adorable in the franchise. It's my list. Like I said at my number 5 spot, demons based off of Norse figures or concepts have a tendency to only appear once and are then forgotten about. In this specific case, their first appearance was in Majin Tensei Ronde in 1999, but unlike Cavzier, they actually did get another appearance in the Devil Children Firebook and Icebook games, which is where the image you see on screen is from, since the wiki didn't even have an image for them in Ronde, and their Devil Children designs are so adorable in my opinion that I wish these were the designs for their return in a future title. Cute is underrepresented in SMT to anything that isn't one of the Jack Frost's kin, and am I really in the wrong for wanting more cute from a dark video game series that asks questions of morality in the setting of a post-apocalypse, that sees friends turn on friends to side with what they believe to be right? Also, like I said when I explained their mythological origins, Munin and Hugin are the companion birds of Odin, who is not only one of the most recurring demons in the series, but was given special emphasis in the trailer that revealed the title with his new tokusatsu-inspired design. Given that Odin might even be a major component of the plot, his ravens would be a good inclusion, be them as his allies in a boss battle or as a part of a quest necessary for the plot. Maybe Odin is even using them to spy on his enemies or rivals during the course of the game. Worldwide, birds in the Corvidae family are also closely associated with war and war-related deities and concepts in numerous mythologies, such as Bab Kapha in some interpretations is a trinity of war goddesses, all closely associated with crows, Morrigan, Nemhane, and Maka. In SMT, war is a concept associated with chaos, and judging from the trailers, Shin Megami Tensei V is going to be a chaos-oriented game like Nocturne before it, taking place after the death of the god, and with a power vacuum having now risen.
Number 2. Persian mythology is perhaps one of the most underrepresented mythologies in the franchise. There are only 2 demons who have had a decent amount of appearances, those being Mithra and Peri. 3 if you count Phoenix, a demon that has been categorized into multiple cultures and religions across 3 continents. The next highest is Dahaka, a dragon from Persian mythology with 9 appearances, but never in a mainline title. Bizarrely, many times they actually have a memorable impact on the story, and then have very few appearances afterwards. In Nocturne, Ahriman is a demon sponsor of Ikawa, but hasn't appeared in any games since. Ahura Mazda joins the party for free in the Chaos route of Megami Tensei 2, and is the final extra stage boss of Majin Tensei Ronde, but has only appeared in 5 titles in total, all in the 90s. And in Strange Journey Redux, Anahita is the first imprisoned goddess fought in the Womb of Grief, which was her 3rd appearance in the franchise to date, but hasn't appeared since. The only other demon who looks like it could become a regular in the franchise is Hama, who appeared in Strange Journey 4 and Apocalypse, and if you count the re-release of Soul Hackers on the 3DS, has made 4 of their 6 appearances in the 2010s. Persian mythology is so underutilized and represented, in fact, that with that mention, I've already listed almost all the demons who have appeared at all, leaving only 4, 2 of which, Deva and Assassin, are not exclusive to Persian mythology either. If I ever do a list on mythological people, monsters, or gods who have yet to appear and should,
then I'll definitely include at least one thing from Persian myths. Back on topic, I think that Feridun, a warrior king of Iran who in Persian literature represents generosity, victory, and justice, should be the demon from Persian mythology to make an upcoming appearance. For a few reasons. The first is that both Feridun and Semerg have only had 3 appearances each, making them the ones who should appear since the others have again had more and or more memorable appearances in previous installments. As for my other choice, Semerg is a bird from Persian mythology comparable to the phoenix, and is probably the reason why the phoenix is even given the category of Persian mythology on the wiki. The franchise already has numerous other birds of various cultures that fit the mold that make frequent and shared appearances with Phoenix, such as Fengwang, Bennu, and Suzaku. There is no shortage of bird demons, 2 of the more underutilized of which that are already on the list, and in terms of birds that represent healing, there already exist the likes of Caladrius, while on the other hand, historic and or mythological warriors, especially warrior kings who aren't gods, are also pretty uncommon to make appearances in the franchise, strange as that may seem. Chuchulin and Tamlin are the only ones to make frequent appearances as far as I can tell. Arthur Pendragon hasn't appeared since Persona 2 and has only made 4 appearances total, not even a third as many appearances as his sword Excalibur has made at 13. Sir Galahad is the only knight of the Round Table to have made an appearance besides Arthur, and only as a persona in the Persona 2 duology. The Black Knight, a staple enemy or anti-hero in literature originating from Arthurian legend, has only made 2 appearances as well. As such, Feridun would be a good demon to use to fill 2 underutilized concepts at once, while Semerg would only fill in 1 and be barely noticeable as a standout, because of how common its archetype is in terms of appearances. Number 1. Waxwork. In Shin Megami Tensei, there is no hard-coded limit to what a demon is a manifestation of. Historical figures, serial killers, the literary canon, religion, conspiracy theories, and movie monsters to name a few. Heck, there is even a demon called Melissa who was based off of a computer virus that wreaked havoc in the late 90s. While the above 5 were all gods or creatures of various mythologies in the world, I felt that the final one on this list should be something extremely unique and with personality in its origin and design. This is the demon Waxwork, who has had only 2 appearances in the franchise. The original Devil Summoner of 1995 and Card Summoner in 2001. If you don't know what a waxwork is, it's basically another name for a wax museum. A type of museum that usually showcases wax sculptures, usually of historical persons, but can also occasionally refer to other places that display works of wax sculptures and art. My family actually once visited one when I was a kid, and I still remember the museum making an exact copy of my hand out of wax as a souvenir. Waxworks also have a deep connection with the horror genre, with various horror movies of the 20th century featuring wax museums as a setting. This connection likely originates all the way back to the 1800s, when one of the first waxworks of England, Madame Tressan's, dedicated a section of the museum to depict the true crime and brutal punishments of England's past. Unfortunately, the Chamber of Terror, as it was called, officially closed in 2016. Permanently, and was replaced with a Sherlock Holmes exhibit. If they wanted to include waxwork into the story, then the easiest would be to have her operate something like the tombs in the Labyrinth of Mala of the Nocturne. She could make wax figures of previous bosses and challenge the player to defeat them all over again, which would be a great way to include waxwork with the origins of her as a concept in mind. This would also work with the already established canon, as Waxwork is in the undead race in both of her appearances. And that's my list. The standard thing to ask at this point, to my understanding, is to ask people what they thought of my list. what demons they thought should be included, and if I missed any that they thought. I spent a few hours on the wiki, so I'm pretty sure I have a very informed list, but this was only 6, so I know that there are frankly tons who could have made the cut, and I could easily make a second list about that if the opportunity ever arises. Personally, I would greatly appreciate a like if you would be so kind. A dislike if not, I'm pretty sure that it makes absolutely no difference. If you're wondering or concerned about the voice changing a bit, that's because I was in the middle of moving and had to literally record this list in 3 separate places. That won't be happening again, hopefully, since I've now settled into an office where I can work. So that's why this video took longer than I had anticipated. I had originally intended for this to be the week after my video about GameRant's article. I don't think that'll be a problem moving forward. I'm going to try and get another video up next week, once again on Tuesday. That's going to be my goal, to get a video up every Tuesday at this point in time. Any and all feedback about how I've been making these videos and recording would be greatly appreciated, FYI. So if you would be so kind, and I will see you next week with a new video.